everyone, how you doing? My name is Marquise. You're welcome to my channel. Today's tutorial will be on how to make this trendy chiffon gathered sleeve. It's really trendy right now, and I'm going to show you how to make that. I'll be making use of this chiffon. Can you see the color which matches with the fabric I'm going to be using? I'm not sure what I'm going to be making with this, but it sure has to be a fitted dress or a top because of the volume which this sleeve will attract. So something fitted will be very, very nice. So before we go over to the work table, make sure you subscribe if you are not. Tell your friends about this channel. You could learn one or two things. For the tools, we have them available in plastic. This is the hip cuff, hand cuff, and the straight ruler, also in wooden. Can you see that? This is the 1 meter ruler, hip cuff, and hand cuff. The hammered cuff, which I use almost every time. Then the pattern master, can you see that? The pins, then the seam ripper. In case you are interested, I will attach the contact number in the description box. So now let's go over to get started. Right now I have my fabric folded. This will be for the front. I'm just going to make a simple dress without a dart. You could add that to yours, princess dart, shoulder dart. I made a series of video on that. You could even add a waist dart to it, but I'm just going to make a simple dress for the sake of this tutorial. Looking at this fabric is quite light, that requires lining, but because of this tutorial I will just make it a plain dress without lining because our focus is more on the sleeve. Now I have folded for the front and this is for the back. The back is more than the front because it will require a zipper at the back. So this is for the front. Insert my vertical measurement before I start with the horizontal measurement. Right now I'll start inserting the horizontal measurement. I've inserted the vertical measurement. Let me just quickly go over that. So looking at it, all my measurements start from this ½ an inch. It will serve as the baseline. Half of my armhole measurement is 8.5, which is what I have here. Half of my armhole measurement. Then we go over to my waist. For this dress I'm going to make use of 17 inches as my waist measurements. Mostly I use 16 or 16.5, but I have my reason for this. Then the next one will be the hip measurement from the nape of my neck down to my hip measurement, which is 24 inches, and then the remaining one will be the length of the dress. Now going over to the horizontal measurement. Let me just remove that of the back panel and concentrate on this. But when we are about to cut, we have to cut it together. Now for my bust measurement, quarter of my bust measurement is 10.5 inches. That is the circumference, which is 42 inches divided by 4. It will give me 10.5. Then I will need 1 inch for the seam allowance. That will make it 11.5. Then I'll go over to my waist. My waist measurement is 9 inches. That is quarter of it. 36 divided by 4. That's 9. I could decide to leave it that way, but I just want it to be a free fitted gown. So I'll just make it 9 3/4, which is here. But because of the 1 inch seam allowance, like I added to this, I'll have to add it to these two. Then I'll go over to the hip area. Quarter of my hip measurement is 11.5. Then plus 1 inch for seam allowance, that will make it 12.5. Which is here. Then this will be the hem of the dress. First, let me just connect from the bust line to the waist, which is this. That's visible. Always make sure you confirm your measurement before cutting. Don't forget that. Then from the waist down to the hip area. Can you see this? If you want a tapered dress, just remove 1 inch or 1.5 from whatever measurement you have here to insert here. But I don't want it to be tapered, I just want it to be straight. That means whatever I have here on the hip area, which is 12.5, I'm just going to place it at the hem of the dress because I just want it straight. If you want it tapered, so you have to remove 1 inch or 1.5 from here, then connect straight down. But I want it to be straight. So now from the hip straight down, So this is what I want. Now let's move to the upper part. Upper part now, to insert the armhole and all that. First I have to insert the 3 inches 8 inches standard. That's for the shoulder slope. And I'll come down by 1 inch. Having done that, now I can insert half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8.5. So then I'll move down here and insert the same thing. That's my armhole line. The next thing now is to determine the midpoint. From here I'll come inward by 3/4 inch, which is here. This is 3/4 inch. Then I'll get my armhole curve. So this is for the front armhole. That's for the front, then the back. Now that's the back. So you can decide any type of neckline you want for the dress. I'm not sure the neckline I want, but I'll just do something like maybe 4 inches for the width. So this is 3. The remaining one will go along the slope. So this is 4 inches. And for the depth, I'll just make it 5. That's for the front. So now that's for the front armhole, the front neck line. Now for the back, I'll just make it higher. So from here now, I'll just come down by 1 inch. Now this is 1 inch. That's for the back. I'll connect to the same neck width. You see that. Then for the shoulder seam allowance, you won't forget that, 1/2 inch. So this is half. From here to, you go up by 1/2 inch. Then I'll have to connect it. So this is the shoulder seam allowance, so I'll have to cut this way. But remember, we have to cut both the front and the back together to make things easy. Let me just fold this. Just take my time to pin it all down. You pin the front panel after the seam allowance for the back. So I'm just going to take my time to adjust all that. I've placed this down. Make sure you pin yours. So I'm just going to extend that of the back. I'll leave the front the same way. Just to avoid the back being bulgy, I'll just go in. This is the waist area. This is the waist area. I'll just go in by 1/2 inch. This is optional, but it prevents the back from bulging. Then I'll connect it straight down to the edge of the dress. And then this straight to the hip area here. That's that. So I'll start cutting it now. Now I'm cutting both the front and the back together. So now once I get here, I'll have to cut this back armhole first. So let me just go here. Then the back neckline. and remove the front. Let me finish with the back. Then I'll have to trim this area off. So I'm done with the back. Then I will now have to open it all down. So we have 2 pieces for the back. And back to the front. I'll just finish the handhole area and the neckline. That is it on the dress. After cutting out the facing, so this is for the back, this is for the front. I've made a video on how to fix, how to attach facing. So this is the leftover fabric I have, so which will be okay for the cuffs. So let's put this aside. So what I'll do now is to attach these together to join both front and back, attach the facing. So now let's focus on the sleeve. At the dress, I've attached the facing to it. First I join the shoulders together, then I attach the facing to it, so you can see that now. The next thing now is to attach the zipper here before fixing it up, before joining the remaining one. After that, I'll have to join the sides to be left with the armhole opening. Now let's just set this aside and continue with the sleeve. The sleeve is going to be divided into 2 parts. The upper part will be the one with the gathered chiffon, while this will be for the fitted remaining part. So the length of my sleeve is 24. Normally it is 24. Then I want the fitted part of the sleeve to be 3.5 inches. It depends on you. You could even make it higher, as much as 5, 6, 7. It totally depends on you. But for me, I'm just going to make it 3.5 inches, which I will use this for. And the upper part, which is gathered, will be for with this chiffon. So what I'll do now is to remove that 3.5 from 24. I'll be left with 20.5 inches. But for this upper part, because it's gathered, we still have to add to the length. But let's just leave that for now and focus on the fitted part, which I said it is 3.5 inches. But remember, we will have to fold this over. We'll have to fold it to make it thicker. And since I'm using a light fabric, I could decide to use a very light interfacing to just make it stable. So now I'll have to cut 7 inches in length by what I want to be the circumference of the sleeve. For me, I'm going to use 4 inches because why? I want it to be 8 inches. So this is 8 inches. It's quite tight, but I'll show you the trick I'll use to do that. And if you don't want to go through that stress, you could just use a button. You could just add a button to it to make it easier. But for me, I'm going to use 8 inches, which is quite tight. Then I'll show you how I'm going to add to the upper part. So what I'll do now is 3.5 times 2, which is 7 inches. Then I'll need extra half an inch to join it to the upper part. You don't need for the lower part because it's going to be folded. So now let's get started with that. This is the right side, this is the wrong side. I'm just going to fold this like this, then cut through. So now I've folded this. This is the wrong side of my fabric. So what I'll just do is to measure. Remember I said the height to be 3.5, so plus half an inch seam allowance, that will make it 4. So 4 is somewhere around here. I want to confirm the measurements again. Now I have height of 4 inches, which is on fold. When you open it up, that's it. You will not have to fold this back. Now the next thing is this. Remember I said I want the sleeve opening to be 8, which is quite tight, but I just want it that way. So half of that is going to be 4 inches, but because I need half an inch or 1 inch depending on what you want to use to join it up. So for me, I'll just make it 4.5 or 5 if you want 1 inch seam allowance. So the actual sleeve opening is 4. It's actually 8 divided by 2 because it's on fold. So 4 inches, then 4.5, which is here. So I will have to measure 5 here. Why? Looking at your hand, you see this part is a bit more than this. So I'm going to add extra half an inch to the upper part. So this is 4.5. Here is going to be 5. Can you see what I have? So this is it. So you will need 2 of these. So I'm just going to cut out another part for this. I'm through with this now. So we have 2 of these. We set this aside. Now for the chiffon, you need lots of fabric for this because you want volume. So it depends on how much volume you want. That totally depends on you. But remember, we said we are left from the calculation we made. My length is 24. So minus 3.5, I have 20.5. But because this is like a puff sleeve, though it's going to be gathered all over, I'm going to add extra inches to it because we want a place whereby the volume will be able to play around. So I'm going to, instead of 20.5, I'm just going to make it 23 or 23.5 because it's like a puff sleeve. So you are going to gather it all down. So you need to add extra inches to it. So I'm going to make it like 23. So apart from that 23, I need seam allowance to join it to the upper part and also to the lower part. That's extra 1 inch. So I'm going to cut out 24 inches in length. And for the width, let me just fold over some. For the width, I will just make use of like 25. It depends on the volume you want. So let me just cut out one first. It depends on the volume. You could cut out a width of 30 inches. That is on fold. I'm talking about on fold now. Usually when I use half of my armhole for my normal sleeve, which is like 8.5, with seam allowance, that's 10. That's for the usual sleeve. But for this, I'm going to make it 25 inches in width. And remember, for the length, we said 24 inches. So I'm just going to fold it, then we'll continue. Though here I have 3 yards of chiffon material, but you just need about 1.5 yards, depending on the volume you want, because it is by 60, and I want a length of 24. So 24 times 2, I think that is 48. So which is more than enough. Let me just check it out. So with 1.5 yards, it's just quite okay. So this is 48. Can you see? So I'm going to cut out 1 here, and the remaining one at the upper part will be for 1. You can see it's just okay. So now I'll have to trim up this, but I can do that later. What I'll have to do now is, I said 24, I'm just going to measure 24 from here. I'm going to trim this off, so I'll start my 24 from somewhere around here, upward. So I'm just going to move this upward so that you can see very well. I can move the camera closer. So I believe you can see it better now. So looking at it, this is 24 inches. So here, I'm going to trim this off. So this is 24. 24, that's okay. So now, my cap's height. If you don't know how to calculate your cap's height, check out my video on how to make a basic sleeve. My cap's height is 4 inches, which is somewhere around here. But because it's like a puff sleeve, so I'm just going to add extra, that will be extra 1 inch or 2 inches to it. So I'll just make it 5. So with that, so randomly, just start from here. Can you see that? Just hope the chalk is visible. Now this is what I have, and I can trim it. So this is for a sleeve now. Now this is what the sleeve looks like. Then I'm going to notch this so I'll know where the middle starts from. So what I will do now is this. First, let me trim off this lower part. As I've said, I will trim it off. I've trimmed off these lower parts. Now this is what the sleeve looks like. And you see that. Opening it up, you have something like this. It's quite wide. You see that. What I'll do now is this. I'll take to the sewing machine using the largest stitch on my sewing machine. Then I'll just have to run a stitch from the edge here all down till the end of this part. Then I'll go to the lower part again, start from here and run a stitch till the end of this. So I'll do that, then bring it back and show you how to gather it. Right now, looking at it, I've used a very long stitch. This is the upper part and this is the midpoint in the lower part. So what I'll do now is to start gathering it. If you use the longest stitch on your sewing machine, it's going to be very, very easy for you to gather the sleeve. Can you see that? They keep adjusting it. This is the middle. Then another thing you need to do is this. You need to measure whatever you have here on your armhole. Like for me, so here I have a 9. So 9 times 2, that is 18 inches. So that means after gathering, I should have 18 inches plus the seam allowance. Like here I already took in the seam allowance, so that would be plus extra 2, that would be 20. That means once I gather it, I've gathered this is the upper part and this is the lower part. This armhole area should be 20. So by the time I sew up 1 inch, that means it will be 18, just as we measured on the armhole area here. So that means first let me check. This is the midpoint here. And then when you are gathering, make sure more of the gathers is at the upper area here, not more here. Fine, you need to gather some here, but not as much as the upper parts. So first let me check. Here I have 9.5, so it has to be 10. That means I need to loosen it up a bit, then adjust the gathers later. Okay, good. I have 10 now. And you see that means it's okay. Then I can lock it up here, just tie it up. So that is it. I'll do that to the second side. Then I can adjust the gathers. So I haven't done that. I'll do that to the second part. Then I'm going to get the other fitted sleeve. Then we can do that to the lower part too. So now for the lower part, we are done with the upper part. So the measurement of this gathered part must be equivalent to this before we sew it up. So let's check that. So it's okay like this. So the next thing now is this. Just take one part of this, attach it using your pins. Remember it's on fold. So I'm just going to pin this down, take to my sewing machine to just sew in 1/2 inch, then come back to go to the next step. Right now I've sewn it, so looking at what I have, so what you just have to do at this point is to use an overlocking machine to finish up these edges, because it has its phrase, so you just have to keep that in check. So remember, we left 1/2 inch here, and here we left 1 inch. So you could take 1 inch then end up with 1/2 inch, or better still, just reduce this by 1/2 inch. So that means you have to gather it a bit. see that? Then I'll come here. And that means I'll have to check the measurement again. Since I have 18 here, so this will have to be 19 instead of 20 because I reduced it because I left half an inch here. So this is 8. So because I should have 8.5. Sorry, 9.5. Let me go over it again. 9.5. That means I have to move it out a bit. Now I have the actual circumference, so I have to turn it to the wrong side this way. Can you see that? Then I'll have to sew in half an inch from this edge down here before attaching to the main dress. It has been sewn up and I'm turning it to the right side. So looking at it, can you see that? So this now will be attached to this. So what I will do is, this is on the wrong side now. So I'll have to put this inward. This is the upper part that will be attached to the shoulder area, so you don't have to forget that. So then I'll have to attach this to this. Can you see that? So you just have to pin it all down. So because I checked the measurement before sewing it up, so everything matches. Can you see that? Then I will now have to sew half an inch all through. After sewing it, then I'll show you how it looks. Now the sleeve has been added to it. Don't forget that, as I've said, because chiffon material frays, so you need an overlocking machine to just make it okay, just the way I did for this facing. Now I'm just going to turn it to the right side, then we can see the final look, and trust me, it's very, very beautiful. So can you see that? Isn't that beautiful? Just, can you see the gathers are well formed, and you can see the sleeve. So I'm just going to fix the other sleeve, give it a good press, and then show you the final result of the dress. You can see the sleeve is so beautiful and so full. You can make it lesser if you don't want so much volume. If you want more, you can add extra material to that, and you can see so beautiful. Just make sure you make yours and share with us on our Facebook group, Sewing Innovation. Tag me on Instagram with the key signatures. And if this tutorial has really been helpful, give me a thumbs up and also subscribe. Share the link, tell your friends about this channel, and bye for now.